Hi everyone, it's Ileana and I have a card to share with you today. This is a card that I made with the Boho Garden stamp kit from Gina K, and I wanted to show you how I put it all together. First, I am taking my Bristol my Bristol Smooth cardstock, and I decided to use this because I am going to try out my Tombow markers. I've had them for a while and I've just never really played with them, so I thought this would be the perfect opportunity to do that. And I was thinking along the lines that if the Zig watercolor markers spread pretty smoothly on the Bristol, that it would do the same thing with the Tombow. So I am using Gina K luxury cardstock. I am using the thicker one because I will be using an aqua brush. So that's why I chose to use the thicker cardstock. And her luxury cardstock is really smooth and it's really, really nice. So I just used my transparency just to kind of line things up, just for an idea. And I wanted to make sure that there was nothing on my stamps that would muck up my paper. I am just stamping the two flowers and then I'm flipping the cardstock over just to fill the page, and I'm just trying to place them so that there is equal spacing, and just knowing where it's going to stamp on the opposite diagonal side. And for the bottom corner, I just moved things up to the upper corner so that I wouldn't have to so that I wouldn't be butted up against the bottom piece. So now that everything is done, I did add some clear embossing powder, and now I am just heat setting it. I've made a few of these cards, and I did make the mistake of not using my embossing bag. The embossing bag just basically removes any static or any oils from your fingers, and it keeps the embossing powder from sticking to the wrong spot. Now to color in my flowers, I'm using two colors of Tombow. This color is 815, and I'm just flicking it onto the center of the flowers. The first time I tried this, I thought that if I waited too long it wouldn't spread as easily, but it does spread. So you can go ahead and color everything in and then go back and blend it together. I am adding a little bit of a darker shade. This is kind of like a purpley pink, and this is 685. And I'm just adding a little bit of just to the center. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my aqua brush and I'm just going to spread that color around. And it just spreads so smoothly. And if you you do need to probably clean off your brush every now and then because it will pick up that darker color, and you don't want your leaf, your petal to be all one color. So I'm just kind of dragging it up to the end of the petal and just trying to keep the majority of the color close to the center. And now for the yellow, I am using 993, and I'm not really worried about any kind of blending or anything like that with this marker. I'm just coloring the whole edge of the petal, the entire color. And I'm sorry I'm out of focus right now, but it does color in smoothly, and these markers don't pill up when you work on your paper. And for the blue, I am using 452, and I'm just going against the edges. I just figured that if a flower is on top of the surface, that it's going to be darkest right up against it, and so I'm just coloring in. I did find that this color was a little bit harder to blend, but it wasn't too bad. You just kind of have to work with it with your aqua brush. And so I'm just kind of just dragging the color out, and I did not clean off my brush because I wanted it to look more like a sky, Actually, no, not a sky. I don't know what I was doing. I just was making something, to be quite honest. I just decided I was kind of in a bit of a, I didn't have my mojo, and so I just decided, well, I'm just going to stamp it in color and see what happens. And so I'm okay with it being kind of mottled in the background, so I didn't bother cleaning off my brush. And the colors do dry back just a little bit, so you can always go back and do another layer of color. And I did do that at the end of the video, but for now I'm just working with what I have. And I went ahead and colored all of the blue in just because I didn't want my water that's on my paper to dry, because then you get like these awkward blooms. And so I just wanted to keep working, and I just kept watercoloring until all the color was blended. And if you like the blooms, you can go ahead and, you know, allow it to dry. It turns out okay, so I was really pleased with how it turned out. And so now everything's dried, and you can kind of see that this is dried back. And when I was at Gina K's store, she did have this box of all these metallic gel pens. And so I went ahead and purchased those, and I'm just using the gel pen to color in the center. And at first I just thought, well, I'll color the whole thing, but then I didn't like how it was looking, so I only colored in, I left the black portion of the stamp in instead of coloring the whole thing in. And then I tried to go back and fix my mistake, and you'll see how I did that. So I've just colored the entire center, leaving the center black in place. And so this is where I go to try to fix my mistake. And so I thought if I go back and I just add the little metallic black to the center, and I didn't like the way it turned out. So I used my finger I thought, well, I'll just sop it up with my finger. And all I did was mush the gold in. So now I'm using my aqua brush to try to pick up all of that gold that was on the flower. And I end up having to go back and add just a little bit of pink just to cover it up. So I'm just trying to use my aqua brush to pick up that metallic that was spread all over the place. And so what I decided to do is just to use that aqua brush to pick up the center so that the little black dot is exposed. And once the whole project is done, you can't tell that I made a mistake there. No one's going to notice anyways, so. And I always make multiples, so I have extra ones, and I learned from my mistake from the first time I made this card. So here I'm still trying to pick up all of that gold that's mushed all over the place. And now I'm adding back some more of that pink. I was really tempted to add some white gel pen, but I wasn't very confident about that, so I just left it alone. And so now I'm just going to add a little bit of a dot to the center of each one, just so that it is a little bit darker. And now I'm going to move on to adding my sentiment. What I decided to do is just to add something bold to the front. And I'm just taking the U from the stamp set that's included in the kit, and I'm just going to stamp it with my VersaFine Onyx Black, or is it Black Onyx ink. And I'm going to do it several times just so that I can get a really smooth black impression. And once that is done, I will go ahead and use some clear embossing powder and heat set that with my heat tool. And the stamp set does have several sentiments on it, and so you're able to coordinate a lot of the phrases with this big giant U. And I'm just going to cut it out with the coordinating die that comes in this set. And I'm going to run it through my big shot. So I'm just going to center it and run it through. I cut out several of the dies out so that I could stack them together to create some dimension. And I'm just using some liquid adhesive. This one's new to me. Chris from Brutus Monroe sent it to me, so I thought I would try it, and I'm really pleased with how it works. So everything is lined up and stacked together, and I'm just going to use an acrylic block to weigh it down. In a little bit, I'll show you another trick that I learned with the MISTI with gluing things down. So what I'm doing now is I'm lining everything up, and so I know where I want it to go, but I want to make sure that I center it correctly. So I'm using the L square, the L ruler from the Creative Corners just to line things up. And I use the magnet to for my placement. And now I'm going to add some liquid adhesive to the back of my stacked die cut. And I'm just adding a little bit. I don't want it to squish out the sides. And so now I'm going to position it exactly where I want. And this is where I had an aha moment. I can use the magnets to hold it down, and it's super strong. So I just left it there to dry. And then I added my Pretty Pink Posh sequence, and this is where I decided that I wanted it darker. I tried it on a different card. You can see it over there on the left. And so what I'm doing now is I'm going back and adding that same blue color, 452, and I'm just adding another layer of color just to darken it up and make it look a little more like a sky. And so I'm just adding it to each of the corners of the petals. And once that is reapplied, I'm going back with my aqua brush and I'm just spreading everything out again. I think this time I used a bigger aqua brush just so that I could have a little bit more moisture. And I am trying to go around the little sequence, and it doesn't make a difference because it's water and water goes wherever it wants to go. And so it seeps underneath just a little bit. And you can go back and do as much as you want. You just have to be careful because this is not watercolor paper, so you don't want to add too much water. It's okay if you just add a little bit at a time and do it in layers. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Be sure you give it a thumbs up and don't forget to hit that subscribe button. And I hope you have a great day. Bye.